Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says, third parak, Mishnah Yud Beis, Rabbi Yishmael Leimer, of the Kalorosh, you should be, there's several different explanations of this word Kalorosh. Light, swift, yielding, Larosh, to the head, to someone superior. The Noyach, like the Shchayres. You should be pleasant to young people, V'havim Makabil es kol Adam Besimcha. And you should receive everyone cheerfully, happily. Rashi explains that when someone is young, he should be swift, quick, to perform the will of God. And someone who does this will be able to easily serve God when he's older. Others explain that this refers to leaders. Act humbly towards leaders. Be yielding to someone superior. Few explanations. Let's focus on this idea, though, of what it means to greet everyone besimcha, with joy, with happiness. Rambam explains that we need to greet everyone happily, regardless of their age or status. And this is what it means also, this Mishnah, and how it's different than the Mishnah that we learned in the first parak. In the first parak, we learned that Shammai taught us "V'makabeles kol ha'odam b'sefer panim yafos," to greet everyone cheerfully. But this Mishnah over here, our Mishnah, is specifying no matter what their age is, no matter what their status, greet them appropriately. The Medrash Shmuel, on page 207, explains that this Mishnah refers to internal and external happiness. A lot of times, people they'll put on a show. On the outside, it will look good, but on the inside, they don't really mean it. That's what the first Mishnah was referring to. Demonstrate one's happiness externally. When we see someone else, we should demonstrate that. However, this is even referring to internal. Our Mishnah over here is referring to even on the inside, we should feel happy. Tiferes Yisrael explains that someone who wants to be loved by everyone, he has to love everyone else. And he goes through the technicalities. It doesn't matter their age status, like we said before. And being liked by everyone is a very high level of success. And it can be achieved if we act nicely towards others. So therefore, that's why we have to act nicely. So that we could achieve that high level. We discussed back in the first parak on that Mishnah of having Makabelas kol adam b'sefer panim yafos to greet everyone cheerfully. Rabbi Yon explains. Basically, the idea is that this world works like water. Pasuk says that the way that we get treated by other people will be in accordance to the way that we treat them. This is similar to our shadow, perhaps, or when we look at water, we're going to see a reflection or a mirror. The face and the facial expressions that we use, we're going to get that back when we look in the mirror in the water. So too, that's how we treat other people. Bartanur explains when we have guests over, don't give them a bad face. Because we could give someone all the gifts in the world, but if it's a bad face, it's as if we didn't give them anything. That's what the Avos to Rabbi Nassan says, and vice versa. You could give your friend just something very little, but if you give it with a good face, it's as if you gave him the whole world, so to say. Gemara in Brachos relates, Yud Zayin, they said about Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai that no one ever preceded saying hello to him in the marketplace, in the streets, even someone who wasn't Jewish. We have to greet people nicely, no matter the religion, their situation. It doesn't matter. That's what the Tiferes Yisrael explains. Doesn't matter how much money they have either. That's what the Mishnah says. V'havim makabelas kol ha'adam, with the hey hayadiah. It says hey before the word adam. No matter who they are, it doesn't matter. That increases love between people and friendship. That's the way to have success. Rabbi Yechiel Mordechai Gordon, says that a sour face is comparable to a bor b'rishus harabim, a pit in a public domain, and it can be contagious. It's like COVID-19. It's contagious. The Gemara in Ksubas, towards the end of the Masechta, Kuf Yud Aleph Amud Beis, relates that someone who shows his friend the white of his teeth by smiling does more for him than if he had offered him a drink of milk. A smile is a signal, and it demonstrates that a person is cared for. And often the emotional needs to feel wanted is more important and powerful than physical hunger or thirst. That's why it's so important. That's the idea over here. To add one more idea. It's a powerful idea that Rabbi Yerucham Olshin writes about, discusses in his Yariach L'Moadim on Sukkot Chelik Beis Maimer Ayin. We're obligated to remember the Ananya covered clouds of glory, not the man, not the be'er, not the, even though it was magical, the food could be whatever we wanted. We had a oasis, we had water in the desert for 40 years. Why? Why specifically these clouds of glory? What's so special about them? Yes, they protected us. They protected us from the elements. But still, what's so important? Furthermore, why are they called Anani Hakavod, clouds of glory? What's the glory of you? So basically, in short, to summarize a very long and nice piece, the Rambam in Hilchos Eivel and Perek Yudalid, the beginning of the Perek, relates that the mitzvah of escorting a guest is even better than having the guest over. And the Gemara in Sota relates on Memvav that someone who doesn't escort his guest, kol sheinem alavi kilu shefech damim, it's as if you killed him. According to the Rambam, it's a tremendously big mitzvah. What is the explanation of this? Why aren't people careful with this nowadays? And why is this that escorting guests is so important? I would think I spent hours with guests, hundreds of dollars. That's the hard part. No, the easy part is walking them out. It takes a half a minute. Why? So, if you open the Shulchan Aruch, you'll find that nowhere in the four sections of Shulchan Aruch does it discuss having guests over. Hachnasas Orchim. However, at the end of Choshen Mishpat, in Siman Tovchav Zayin, the Darchei Moshe wonders why people aren't careful to escort their guests. He explains that it's because the person who is being escorted is mochel. He says, I don't need to be escorted. However, he still says that you need to minimally escort him 4 amos, 6 to 8 feet outside of the house. Another reason why people are lenient with this, the Aruch HaShulchan says that if the guests aren't traveling by foot, they don't need to be escorted. Additionally, two or more guests are walking out together. The host does not need to escort them because it's as if they're escorting one another. That's the Aruch HaShulchan and Choshen Mishpat, Tavchav Vav Oz Beis. Even so, it's still so important to escort guests. Why? One explanation is someone who gives food and drinks to his guests, you physically provided for their needs. But when you escort your guests, you're emotionally taking care of their needs, spiritually taking care of their needs, psychologically taking care of their needs. When you escort someone, that individual who was escorted, his spirits gets raised. When we escort a guest, this demonstrates that we are honoring our guest. In other words, the honor shown to the guest by escorting him lasts forever, unlike the food and drinks, which is only temporary. This is why they're called clouds of glory. The clouds demonstrated that Hashem, so to say, honored the Jewish people by escorting us in the desert. That's why specifically we commemorate the clouds of glory. What a beautiful idea. What a beautiful idea indeed.